Welcome to my classroom. Today we're going to talk about getting your kids to write a haiku. A couple of things to preface this. Haiku is a Japanese writing style, poetry style, and I've had debates with teachers over this, so I'll kind of teach it open-ended. My personal opinion is if you don't speak Japanese, you're pretending to write a haiku. It flows very nicely in the Japanese rhythm of their language, but it's a little cumbersome in an English translation, so I'm going to leave it open-ended. I'm out here on the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge at the Wildlife Education Center today. My preference is always to get kids out into beautiful natural surroundings, whether they be out at a gorgeous wetland on a day like this or into the mountains. But you can do this at the edge of your schoolyard. But I really do think it is much richer to do it in nature, even if it's on a schoolyard, than it is trying to do it in a classroom. So let's talk about the basics of a haiku. A haiku has 1, 2, 3 lines. In its pure form in Japan, it is supposed to have a rhythm of 5, 7, 5, which means the first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, and the third line is back to 5 syllables. In Japan, they really don't have to work at it because their language flows so nicely into this rhythm. But one of the hard parts in English is feeling like you're so limited to the 5, 7, 5 that you lose the ability to describe what you're trying to show. Let me give you an example. Just a minute ago, right over there from where I stand, a beautiful great blue heron flew in, landed. Oh, I'd love to include that in my haiku, but great blue heron, I've used up all my syllables just to use the name of the bird. So I'm going to use this as open-ended, or if you want to tighten it back down to a true 5, 7, 5. But to me, the magic is in getting kids to see nature and distill it down to a brief but rich explanation. So here are the steps I use. First of all, I'll have the kids come out, we'll sit in a spot like this, we'll look around, even at the edge of the schoolyard, and I'll say, okay, haiku deals with nature. You have to use natural things in your haiku. So I can't use the whiteboard, I can't use benches or poles or barns or anything, but I have to just use nature. So I asked the kids to choose 3 things in nature, anything around. So I really was so caught by the beauty of that heron flying in that I'm going to make one of my lines. I'm going to put it over here. Whoops, losing my pen. Is the heron. I'm in a wetland. So let's see, I've got bulrushes in here, I've got cattails just beyond, I even have invasive phragmites in here as well. So, I'm going to use cattails. I am not at all worried about my syllables yet. I'm going to just choose the 3 items. So I've got cattails, a heron, and while I'm sitting here, I've noticed several swallows skimming by me. I've seen some dragonflies moving by. I could use the clouds above me, high and wispy. So many things to choose from. But I personally am going to use clouds. This is not a rule by any means. I could make all three of the lines. I could do herons, swallow, and dragonflies as my three. But personally, I like to take a plant in the environment, an animal in the environment, and the environment, and tie them all together into a beautiful picture here. Not a rule by any means, it's just something I find rich as I'm trying to use this haiku to tie everything together. So I'll typically ask the kids, give me one, give me two, give me three, and I don't screen them at all. Just the first three that come up, if they deal with nature, we put them down. The next thing I'll do is I'll say, all right, let's just take one of them and we'll put it in the first slot because I can shuffle them around anytime I want, any way I want. But let's just take the first one as cattails. So I look over here and I look beyond me. Even though there's not much of a breeze, my cattails are, and this is the way I say to the kids, look at the cattails, what are they doing? What do you see them doing? The action. The cattail is the object, what is it doing? And they'll usually say something like swaying gently in the breeze. So let's not worry about the 5, 7, 5. Let's just get it down. Cattails. Swaying gently. Now, for the 5, 7, 5, the syllables, in haikus, leave out the cattails are swaying gently in the breeze and just condense it down, distill it to cattails swaying gently. Breeze is understood. In fact, I may say cattails sway gently, or I may say cattails gently sway. All of those are ways to work it and rework it, distilling down to the essence of that picture. All right. Heron, let's put that in the middle here. Instead of calling it a great blue heron and using up a lot of syllables, I'm just going to say heron. It's perfectly all right to use cattails as the first word, heron as the first word, but I want to break it up a little bit. The heron was slowly glided and landed. I'm going to use this word. Sorry folks, that's what happens when you're outside. Sometimes your equipment fails you and I don't have a backup marker. Majestic. Majestic heron lands. Cattails, I like this, gently sway. I like it that way better. Cattails gently sway, majestic heron lands. Now I got to put the clouds in. Today's clouds are wispy. Wispy clouds. Drift. Cattails gently sway, majestic heron lands, wispy clouds drift. All right. I can rework that, move it around. In fact, I'll have the kids give me their input as to what we should do, where, and how we should move that around. But that's the heart of what I'm seeing and experiencing here. And that experiencing is a big part, which is why I feel you got to get them out of a classroom, even on the edge of the schoolyards is better. In a spot like this is magic. Let's see how I did for 5, 7, 5. Cattails gently sway. Cattails gently sway. So I got 5. Majestic heron lands. I've only got 6 on that one. Wispy clouds drift by. If you feel strongly you want to tweak it into the 5-7-5, no argument, do it. If you're good with it like this, do it. If you want to add a couple of words, give you an example. It was autumn and I was down by a river and the willows were changing yellow, and one of the kids was describing the willow leaves and he said they pirouette. Whoa, what a great word. It's going to use a lot of syllables, but I don't want him to not use that word as the description, because we traded off syllables for richness and in the process lost the picture, in my opinion. Okay, so haiku. This is a familiar tool for many teachers out there. We'll write a haiku as a group. I'll then have the kids pair up and write a haiku as a pair. Depending on the age and the kids I have, I may say, here's a rule. You can only use one of these, heron, cattails, or clouds. You can use one of them. You don't have to use any of them, but you can only use one. You can't just duplicate it. And sometimes I'll say you can't use any of them. It's up to you, of course. Then I'll have them write it together, work on it, then share, and then I'll have them isolate alone, find a spot where it's quiet. If I'm out in more of a natural setting, that's easier to do, and I'll have them write their own at that time. So we do it together, we do it paired, and then we do it individually. Okay? Then they come back and share. Whenever I share with my kids, my students, it's always, would you like to share? And one of the things I try to not do is ever critique their haiku unless they give me permission. And I praise their haiku because they're all wonderful. Now, one quick story in wrapping up here. I had some kids deep in the mountains one day, and I had a girl, we'd been together as a group for 3 days, and this girl was just so hesitant to write. She just was so hesitant to write. She was 11 years old, coming into 6th grade, but I couldn't get anything out of her. We're high in the mountains. We're talking about a haiku. They'd never heard that before. I introduced them, and I had us write a haiku. I had her and a friend write a haiku. Then I had them find a spot and write a haiku of their own. And it was like a switch. If you've taught school for very long, you know when a student turns that switch. She just suddenly felt free to write. This is not magic for everyone, but you'll find some students it really allows them the freedom to express themselves in great ways. So, thank you for attending class today. Hopefully you feel comfortable and have some ideas of how you can use a haiku to express the richness and distill it down into a brief 3-line nature poem. Thank you.